Welcome back, everyone, to yet another diatribe, because as you know, I'm always on one. So I wanted to definitely bring on my next guest. I absolutely love this woman. She's someone that sort of just dropped out of the sky um, at the time when I needed it. Another truth teller, another person that just really gets it and really sort of tells it like it is. She's inspirational. She's a badass. She does pretty much, she's like the archetype of the exact executive assistant that I want in the wild, if that makes any sense. Someone that I respect tremendously, who is teaching me, I think probably more than I'm teaching her, and is someone that I know is, already has a bright present, but like an even brighter future. So, with no further ado, I would like to introduce you all to. Wait, am I doing it on the right side? We'll find out in the video. Diana Faz. Diana, please let the kids know who you are and what you're all about.
Wow, that was quite an introduction. Thank
It's all
you.
true. You know that.
Well, I've been around for a while now, just as you have, and I've worked. I think one of the things that has helped me is the diversity in industries that I have worked in: consulting, sports and entertainment, finance, more finance, and more finance. So I think I like finance, so that's where I've been for at least the past 10 years, and it just I just click with it. I do well in that industry. So here I am. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure for me that you know that. The funny thing is that you mentioned finance. Finance for me was addictive. Like it was just plain addictive. I loved it to this day. I'll be honest with you. If anyone in finance, if you're listening, if you already like a super high level executive assistant job, or maybe even, well, these days, diversity, inclusion, and all the other crap that y'all want to throw at me, I'd probably go. I'm not even kidding you. I just cash in on my companies and be like, you know what? I'm gonna take a break. And I'm just going to go back to finance because I cut my teeth there. Give me just like a little history of, especially coming from like sports and entertainment and the other industries that you were in, what was the lure of finance? Was it just sort of like a drop by, or was it something that always interested you?
So I think I think we have to go back a little bit further,
Oh, okay.
so that I'm originally from Texas, as you are,
Hello.
and I went up to New York for just a little bit. I was only supposed to be there for a little stint, just a summer,
Yeah, good luck with
and
New York
then
City doing that.
exactly, and I seem to have found my home. It just clicked. So yes, I worked in consulting for a little while, and I found a really, still to this day, one of my favorite ex no he is the favorite ex-boss that I left with McKinsey. I left McKinsey for him. I went to go work in sports entertainment with him. He's an amazing guy, still to this day. And it was working in finance, in sports and entertainment.
Mhm.
So that from there just kind of inched me towards, worked a little in private equity, worked in asset management, now working in ratings. And I just, I love so much about it. It's not as sexy as some of the other departments. Of course, we have people in some sexy jobs. I don't think that ours is, but it's still, it's amazing, and it can be very invigorating. I I really just love it. I have thrived in it like no one's business. And who would have known? Certainly not me. I would have never guessed I would have thrived in finance
I
ever.
love it. I love it. I love it. And I was the same. I mean, come on. I mean, who knew? A black gay man and finance of all things. It just doesn't really on paper equate. But, it's again, it's one I easily my favorite industry of all the industries that I've worked in, easily my favorite. Easily. I do love tech, don't get me wrong. Like tech is my baby, but there's something about finance because it's such a crapshoot. You don't know what you're getting one day to the next. I mean, you can kind of get an idea, obviously, where the market is going and stuff like that. But you never know. COVID might hit. And next thing you know, you know what I mean? You don't know what the hell is happening at any point in time. So I absolutely love that. With regard to being in finance, especially with EAs in finance, I'm just kind of curious. Like, are they a different animal than EAs in other industries? Have you noticed that?
Well, I can certainly tell you, I know where an EA has worked and what company EA has worked in finance. just by the way that they handle the job, right? So I can tell you that one's from Credit Suisse, and that one is from BlackRock, and that one just came out of, well, that's McKinsey, so that's consulting, but they deal with finance.
Same
So,
difference.
and the different flavors, just because there's a certain, it's almost like a school. It's kind of like, somebody went to Yale, and somebody went to Harvard, somebody went to Columbia. So yes, they do have different flavors. The one thing that they all have in common is that the good ones, not even, the good to great ones have amazing negotiating skills. They are absolutely necessary to be able to work in finance, especially if you're working at a large conglomerate. But even if you're working in a small company, your negotiation skills still have to be on, because you're talking to your client or your potential client, and you need to try to get somebody on the other company's calendar. And, that takes negotiation skills.
Right. And don't you think now, especially, so I'll just sort of preface with this, I'm noticing, especially since COVID hit, that a lot of the sort of deficiencies that we had as executive assistants before are really coming to light now. Meaning the executive assistants that didn't have good negotiation skills, the executive assistants that didn't have that sort of fortitude to, seek things to do, quote unquote. The ones that weren't able to sort of forge relationships with people, not just their executives, but, relationships throughout the chain, up and down the chain, are really becoming conspicuous now. Like, I'm flooded with emails of, essentially, I got caught with my pants down. Like, I was, really just riding high on the hog and, expecting that because I was the executive assistant to the CEO of blah, 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 that I didn't need to make all of these sort of, relationships or anything like that. So I'm just kind of curious, what's your sense of, maybe some of the core things that executive assistants now, if they don't have it, for instance, or if they neglected to do it pre-COVID, what are some of the sort of key things that they really need to sort of focus on right now? Because people are struggling. Like, this. I mean, they are struggling. So, I'd love any wisdom that you could sort of impart on the general community.
Well, share with the community what I shared with my assistant team. I have a team of 7 reporting to me. I believe it's 7. So you have to add value. We're not, even before this, you had to add value. So if you weren't adding value before, you're already behind. Right. So figure out how to add value.
What are some examples? Just because I know people are going to be like, what do you mean?
Right. So my assistant team went from making copies and filing to figuring out how to get online dashboards available for their teams, for figuring out how do I better use Slack so that my team can benefit, so that they can get the same feel out of it. I do a lot of, me personally, and I believe my assistants do as well, they do a lot of virtual, bumps in the hallway. You used to bump into people in the hallway all the time. That's how we maintain our relationships. We now do it over Slack, right? Just to stop off. Hey, I hadn't heard from you. How's it going? Blah, blah, blah. They're maintaining relationships. But more important than that, they have taken those tools, Slack, Miro, Zoom, and figured out how to best work them for their team. How do we get that same feel that they had? Because every team is different, so you have to work it for your team. If my team was used to all being in a conference room and talking to each other all the time, or being able to run into each other's office all the time, how do I make that happen online?
Digitally, yeah.
And all of my assistants have done that. They have brought it and they continue to. And that's why my assistant team is doing so well.
I love that. I love that. Give me a couple more. We talked about obviously, adding value. What else do you think of?
So immediately, and of course, if you haven't already done this, I mean, I don't know any company that hasn't done this. So also checking the budget. Where can I go and where can I save, and how do I do this? Because if you don't do it, someone else is going to do it for you. So, there are things that you can do. You can go, are there any vendors that you can go back to and renegotiate? Everybody's taking renegotiations right now. So if you haven't done it, it's just a neglect. So going back, seeing how much you can push your vendors to save money, to keep their loyalty, to make sure that things are going on track. That's a big thing. And also looking forward. So we don't sit on our laurels. We don't, okay, so this team already they have their Miro board, great, or that team has whatever. Yeah, I know how to do this now. Great. What's coming up next? Everybody, here's our Slack representative. Here's what's coming down the pipeline. Who's interested in learning? Show of hands, and I'll get volunteers. Those people will be our new subject matter experts on whatever it is that they're doing, or things that have been annoying and that are preventing anything from having communications run smoothly. Distribution lists are always a hot mess no matter what large corporation you're working at. How do you clean those up? Is there a way to automate them? Yes? Okay, guess what? All the engineers have time for you right now. You can find something. So you can find your equivalent of the distribution list. Absolutely, you should look at the budget. I think one of the things that we did is we had a lot of credits, of course, that came back from a lot of different places.
Yeah.
Can we get some of that money back, or is it going to have to sit there in the bank? Is that something we can explore? So there's a lot of different ways that you can add value.
I love that. And I'm glad that you mentioned, executive assistants looking at the budget, because I think that's one of the things that I've never really understood why we don't do that more often. Typically we have access to that information, at least to an extent, depending upon who it is that you work for up and down the chain. But even in each department, we still have some access to what our numbers look like, or at least what our accountabilities financially are, for instance. And it shocks me to the core that a lot of executive assistants have no clue of what those numbers look like, what our accountabilities are, what our team and our executives' accountabilities are, but then also how we influence those numbers. For instance, you and I obviously sat in, I taught a class recently on really like a larger construct of the business acumen that we need as executive assistants, especially post-COVID, to really be able to provide value to our teams and our executives. And that's one of the things that even on the call of the executive assistants that we had, that was still kind of like crickets. A lot of people just had no clue what their company financials were, or how to even interpret, or to be able to look at spreadsheets and interpret those metrics. And that's where I'm able, I guess, to provide value to the general community in those classes that I teach. But this is something that I feel is imperative for executive assistants to know, especially at C-suite level. You have to know those numbers. You have to look at those business metrics and be able to interpret them. And you have to really understand where you fit within that construct and what you can do to influence certain outcomes based on those numbers. So, I mean, I don't want to pepper you with give me an example of when, I hate that shit. It drives me crazy. But, I guess maybe I'm just looking for an amen from you with regard to really understanding that information.
On a normal year-to-year basis, on a normal day, you should know what your budget is for your executive's travel, right? That's something you can control.
That's easy.
When you're going to do it. You know that if you wait 2 days before a trip, it's going to cost a lot more than if you knew about the trip and you book it 21 days in advance.
Right.
That's a no-brainer. If you're an assistant and you don't know this, I think I have some suggestions on where you might want to focus on what you might want to learn right away.
Thank you for putting that so kindly, because I would not have been that sweet about it. But you're dumb as hell. What the hell is wrong with you? But I love that. I mean, these are just practical life advice, if you will, or at least professional advice nuggets that why not? Let's go on a little nugget tear, shall we? I'll think of one. You think of one. How about that? That's a great. For instance, I'm a big believer that you should audit your calendar, your executive's calendar once a quarter, and that I am still a big believer that one-on-ones are absolutely not necessary all the time. I don't think they should be weekly. I think they should be on an as-needed basis. And I know I'm going to get hate mail up the wazoo. I don't care.
Who doesn't do one-on-ones with her boss, right?
What's that?
I don't have set one-on-ones with my boss.
Where's my delete?
No, listen. But my relationship with my boss is different.
Yeah.
He is available to me 24/7, 365,
Exactly.
no matter what.
Exactly.
If I call or if I reach out and say, I need to speak with you now, he responds, and he responds immediately.
Right.
So, and it doesn't matter what he's doing. So if you have that kind of relationship, yes, you
Which
can.
is so rare, but yes.
Yeah. I will also say this is the only time I've had that. The only time that I've had this type of relationship, even with the best of bosses, they like having, a lot of them like having structure, and you do. I will say this is the only, again, this is the only boss I've never done that with.
Yeah.
Everybody else, I have to have set one-on-ones, and during busy seasons, at least twice a week.
Right.
Minimum twice a week.
And
when you have a lot going on.
Absolutely. And I'll riff off of that because I think a lot of times when we have these one-on-ones, they're just not structured. That drives me up a wall. And my thing is, when you have those one-on-ones, you as the executive assistant needs to run it, not your executive. You need to let them know what it is that you're working on, what it is that, are the sort of check off boxes that you need answered during that, 15 minutes, typically is what they are, 15 to 30 minutes. And then also, to be a harbinger of what's to come. And I'm finding, that a lot of what I hear, especially when I coach other executives, for instance, now that I've become an executive trainer, is really hearing that half the time those one-on-ones just don't really go anywhere because they end up, being frustrated over the fact that their executive assistant didn't come to them with any answers. They're only coming with questions. And my thing is, wow, that's a problem. And that's what I try to empower executive assistants is like, hey, yes, you might have questions that need answers, but, provide solutions, provide a roadmap of what's to come, give them a vision of, hey, we talked about this last week. This is the result of that chat. This is what's actually coming now, or these are questions that resulted from that chat. Where do you stand on this so that I can go back and report it to the people who are asking, who are too chicken to come and ask them damn selves, that sort of thing. So I'm kind of curious, like when you structure your one-on-ones or even your touch points with your boss, what does that look like? Is it quick in, quick out? Are you like, what's this, yes or no, or?
Yes, but I do want to say one other thing. I think people are forgetting about the fact of what an investment to the company it is. The time that you're spending with your executive is a huge investment. Do the math. How much are they paying you? How much are they paying them? How much is that half an hour costing? So is that really how you want to spend that kind of money for the company's money? That's why I'm very quick. And yes, mine are very structured. Even if it's a 30-second call, it has a beginning. Here's the issue. Here are the options that I have. Would you like to take, by the way, I never give more than, usually 2, no more than 3 options.
Bless you for saying that.
Here's the options that I think we should pursue. Personally, I think we should pursue, option A, but there might be something that you're not seeing, which is why I'm coming to you to ask you about this.
Love that. Absolutely love that.
So then you, and even if it's 30 seconds, hey, here's problem, solution A, B, sometimes C. Which one would you like? Right. Is there something I'm not seeing?
Or other.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I love that. I mean, because again, that's one thing that I try to get across to executives as well as executive assistants is maximize the time. There shouldn't be a bunch of and on, oh, let me find out, and I'm not sure, and all of that. There's no time for that. And you hit the nail on the head when you talk about how expensive this is. COVID has actually really made people realize that time is money. Hardcore. It is straight up money. So especially now when a lot of companies are hemorrhaging money. And because of that, there's a lot of attrition out there in the wild. It's not just executive assistants that are getting laid off. It's managers who don't know how to manage remote teams who are getting laid off, who were kicking ass in the office, going up and down the aisles, but hey, how you doing? What's going on? I'm doing a little pop by, and who absolutely screw the pooch when it comes to dealing with remote teams and keeping them motivated and keeping them held to a certain standard, the same standard as in the office. So a lot of those managers are now being let go, which is leaving. 2 things that I want to bring about that is, it's leaving, a bunch of work on the table that still needs to be done that unfortunately a lot of executives are having to absorb in order to keep the train moving down the tracks. But I also see a bunch of opportunity in that because for executive assistants who get it, the ones that are really striving, the ones who are looking to make those, minor, major, complete different moves within the organization, here's a great opportunity to sort of leverage all of that, divvy up some of that work that's left on the table that they can't, replace a headcount for, and take on some stuff that's, above their punching weight, as people like to say. But also an insane opportunity to grow within position. I'm curious. I mean, are you seeing sort of things like that? Obviously, maybe
Oh
not
yeah.
within your organization, but I'm
No,
hearing it and seeing it
actually
in the
I am.
wild.
So, I mean, we could have easily turned around and said, you know what, we don't know how to do this. I don't know,
Right.
oh yeah, it's new software. It's new software. And I don't know, maybe we should get somebody that knows how to do the software. I hear this all the time as well. I know you do as well. Listen, everything is free. YouTube is free. Google is free. Learn it. Play with it. Learn it. Do it. Figure out how it can bring value to your team. My team could have done that, and maybe we wouldn't be quite in the position that we are now. But I'm very proud of them. I know that I'll keep saying that I'm very proud of them. They brought it
Right.
right. I said, this is what we need to do. We need to figure out, go figure out how you're going to add value to your team. Come back and let's discuss any idea, no matter how random it seems. Bring it to me and we'll see if we can make it work.
I love that. I love that.
So even when they didn't know how to do it, even if they said, you know what, it'd be really great if we could, what was the most recent one? It'd be really great if we could figure out how to put this, do something else with this spreadsheet. Is there a different way? It'd be really great if we could if people wouldn't have to be on whatever to be able to access it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? That's a great idea. Why don't we go talk to some people?
Yeah. Exactly.
All the engineers are available right now, people.
Right. And they're really like bored. A lot of them are, and worried, to be honest with you. So give someone a teaching moment. I trust me, they will take it like happily. Well put, by the way, because I'm a big believer that, and to our earlier point of providing value.
Yes.
I mean, now, especially as executive assistants, especially ones who, feel like they've been sort of sidelined, where they don't have that real sort of, the same sort of connection, the in the moment connection that they have with their executives. This is a great opportunity to sort of, okay, cool, accept that, but, really go into the background and do an audit of all processes across the entire board and really get a sense of, because one thing that we know is efficiency. Like, trust me, executive assistants don't like to really waste time because we rarely have any. So, if we can really audit all of the processes that are in place right now, and really kind of go through, like, is this necessary? How much time is this taking? A lot of us know everyone's salaries. Let's be honest. Sorry, guys, don't want to have to give away the secret, but we know your salary. But look at those salaries and do like a price comparo. It's like, okay, well, this is taking so much of so-and-so's time. It's a waste of about 3 hours. They make about this much. So if you put that, that amount of money times 300, to what is it, 2,080 hours a year, this is how much money we'll save by just simply eliminating these 2 meetings, for instance, that no one can find the ROI from. You see what I'm getting at? So again, this is the type of thinking that ad nauseum, I know I've been like beating it into people for me, at least the last 4 years, but it's something that I think has really come to the fore of what it is that we need to do as executive assistants now to really, again, provide value and conspicuous value, not just that, award-winning, touchy-feely bull crap that I'm seeing in the, yeah, I said it, seeing in the wild. I good for you with them award shows, y'all. Do your thing. I get it, and we need that pat on the back every now and then. But I'm also here for the money and here for the business. So as long as none of that suffers, award yourself to death. I'm here for it. But I'm seeing a whole lot of awards and very little change in this, in how we do business as executive assistants. So that's interesting. Here's a question for you. What's next for us? Like, what do use your mind's eye. We're close to age. Look at what's this gonna look like after COVID? Like, I think we're getting a little sniff of it right now, but I've got some ideas. I just want to hear yours first, because you know me, I'll launch into it.
Yeah, well, I think mine are pretty much aligned with yours, Phoenix, which is, yes, I know I keep going ad nauseum about adding value and all that kind of stuff, which is still true. But, and I know I'm not alone in this thinking. You have to, if you're going to be an executive assistant, you're going to be a rockin' executive assistant, you better have the right motivation. My motivation is to make my C-suite guy successful. His success is my success. And one of the things that I always tell him, and that makes it different, or what's going to set you apart, is his success is important. And it's important that they know that that's how you feel. We're not, well, at least not at this point in time, after, we're not after their jobs. We're not after, the CEO chair. We're not, other people might have their ulterior motives if they have a lot of direct reports. So it's honest truth to power. And if you can do that for your executive and have a good relationship with him, I just don't see how you're not going to succeed. But this is, of course, in combination. That is the overall umbrella. The foundation, of course, is still, you have to figure out how to add value. You have to be familiar with everything that comes across. You have to know what it is that they're trying to accomplish. You have to know their goals. You have to know what they need to deliver every single day and week by week and year by year. You have to know this, and you have to align everything that you're doing to that. So that's what you're going to succeed.
Nectar. I'm drinking it right now. I'm not even kidding you. And you're right. I mean, here's one of the things that I think for those of you executive assistants who are watching this and maybe struggling, with, relevance or whatever the hell you want to call it at this point, go back to basics. Anytime that I chose a role supporting an executive, it was because I wanted there were like a couple of objectives that I was trying to achieve. One is to make that executive even more successful, because like you said, it's correlative to my success. Them being successful is directly proportionate to my being successful. It's just the way business works. But at the same time, it also allows me this opportunity to learn, to grow, to have even more leverage and access to more executives outside the company, for instance, and build my brand, if you will, within the role, so that I'm not just this sort of, quasi liability to my executive. I'm not just their quote unquote assistant. I'm an actual force, meaning I can get introductions that even my executive can't get. You see what I'm getting at? I have a network, obviously on Tribe and otherwise, where I can reach people and say, hey, I have to get this man in front of your boss. Like, what do we need to do? What Wonder Twin power, behind the scenes bullshit do we need to accomplish in order to accidentally have them run into each other at the same party? You know what I mean? Like, that's the stuff where I feel executives don't really understand how we operate necessarily. And I'm not going to give all the secrets away here because it's none of their business, but, but we are a force as executive assistants. And one of the things that I really want to get across more than anything is we need to, value one another specifically, but then also really value that relationship that we have with our executives. Let them know, I'm here for you, boo. Like I chose you. Not necessarily this company, not necessarily this city, not necessarily this building. I chose you specifically, and I'm here for you. However, you need to be here for me too. So if we can figure out how to synergize around that, if you can give me the access that I need, if I can give you the type of attention and communication that you need, we can go really, really far in this game. To me, that's my approach to being an executive assistant. It's not, I'm here to work for you and collect $120,000 a year, taking your shit. That's kind of not how it works for me. So, and I know you're not that person either. I mean, the value you provide is kind of insane. And that's one of the things that I absolutely love. So anyway, if you want anything to add to that, I'm sorry, I took way too much of a diatribe.
No, I think not. I think it needs to be said, Phoenix, because I don't think, if we're still talking about it, then it hasn't been said enough. Right?
Agreed.
One of the things that you touched on that I think it's important that we talk about is using your voice.
Yes.
Right? So great. You've gotten the great executive, you've got the great executive assistant position, you're there, you're part of the team, you're in the staff meetings, you're part of everything that's going on, the inner workings of everything. Use your voice. You're not at the kiddie table. You're not at the kiddie table. That was left a long time ago. So let's use our voice, and let's use our voice for good. Are they going to be happy to hear everything that you have to say? No, absolutely not.
Right.
They're not. That's why it's important that they know that you're here for their success.
Right.
No
Exactly.
ulterior motives except their success. Right. And sometimes you have to use your voice for others when they can't. If you see something that's not right, speak up. Trust me, they're going to want to know. No one's going to want that shoved under the carpet or anything. Compliance is not going to want it shoved under the table. Legal's not going to want it shoved under the table. Speak up.
Right. And I noticed a lot of executive assistants still have trouble with, this whole concept of finding your voice. Maybe I'm just so biased because I'm so old and I've done it for so long that I'm just like, what the hell are you talking about? Find your voice. Like, why would you join a company or stay at a company or stay in a relationship with an executive if you don't have a voice? Like, what's the point? Like, then why are you there? Like, I just, that's so lost on me. And I apologize to anyone that, if I just don't get it, I just don't get it. Because I believe, I approach professionalism in general as a reciprocity, meaning I bring to the table my expertise. You clearly have expertise. When we synergize our expertise, then we all have a seat at the table to an extent. Obviously, hierarchies and shit like that, that's just inevitable. But I just don't ever really understand this whole concept of I don't have a voice with my executive. I don't feel like I have a voice within my company. I'm not respected. No one listens to me, all of that. How do you feel about that? And what's the remedy? I mean, for me, it's just like quit and move on,
Okay, so first and foremost, I think part of the problem is that anybody that you're hearing that from is not seeing themselves as a professional. One of the things that I did in my prior companies, we started an EA network, and it took us a year to get the assistants in the organization to just see themselves as professionals.
Crazy.
They just didn't get it. They didn't understand. And because they didn't see themselves as professionals, they had issues with everything else. They didn't know when to speak up, how to speak up. They didn't know when, how to align their goals or their objectives to everything else that was going on in the company, mainly because some of them didn't understand what was going on in the company, but that's a completely other diatribe that I will leave for you.
We'll film it, don't worry.
So that's part of the problem. And how you're going to get to see yourself as a professional, I think that's pretty personal. I know that what I do brings value, so that in and of itself, I take a lot of pride in my work.
Is that the issue, Diana? Or Diana, I'm curious, just because do people just?
I know it was my issue.
Yeah.
I wasn't this perfect always, but it's pretty close to perfect. Okay. But at some point in time, I had to realize that that people paid attention to me, and that when I spoke up, it mattered. But that also meant not. I'm not going to sit here and complain about every single little thing. Like I wait to make sure I pick my battles. I wait to see. But when it's appropriate, yes, I will bring in. Well, my sources tell me, of course, try. But sources tell me that other companies are doing X, Y, Z, or this has been the norm, or whatever. No, I'm just whatever it is. Just we need to be able to know how to speak up, but at least for me, it was personal. I think it took a lot for me to be able to just see myself as a professional. It took meeting Kate. I don't unfortunately recall her last name, but she was wonderful. And when she met me, she said, I didn't even know that you could be a professional executive assistant until I met her. Mm-hmm. And she said, you're really good at this. You could make a career out of this. And I remember looking at her going, wait, there's a career? Like, dumbfounded. I was young and stupid, obviously. So, but it took, once I understood that this is a career, Careers are for professionals. So think about that.
Ooh.
Yes. So if this is your career, then you are a professional. You should treat yourself as such and care for that career the way that you see, CPAs have to go get CPE credits, doctors have to go take, refreshers on whatever it is that they need to refresh. Executive assistants have to go educate themselves on whatever's coming down the pipeline and whatever's already on your plate. If you don't know it,
100%.
learn it. Right?
Absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. Here's a question for you. What
Mhm.
new education should we be focusing on right now?
Definitely strategy, as we know, as you know,
As I
because
teach.
you've
To
been
death.
as you teach.
Ad
Yes. So
nauseum.
definitely strategy. And I know I'm not the first to say this, any software that your company's already using, please learn to be an expert in it, and
Please,
please
God.
learn how you can use it in your own departments. I can't believe we're still talking about this, but
We
yes,
are.
please.
We are.
But please, let's do it.
Right.
Please learn whatever it is. And here's another thing. So one of the things that we love Slack.
Mhm.
We love Slack. So many companies use it.
Mhm.
They always have things coming down the pipeline.
Oh my
I have a
God.
great relationship with our rep, and I have conversations with her, every couple of months, every however long. Hey, how's it going? Listen, so what do you have coming down the pipeline?
Mhm.
What's coming up next? Because when she tells me, then I go and I'm like, where can we use this? Like, where would this make things easier somewhere? And you can do that with just about software. So please learn whatever software you have. That's how you're going to incorporate it. You don't want to be replaced by that, by that bot. Learn how to use it. Be the only
Exactly.
one that knows how to use it.
Yep. Absolutely. And not just that, incorporate the bot, manage the bot. That's the way I look at it. You want a management, is the management responsibility? Manage a bot, because oddly enough, you'll be managing bots way more than you'll be managing professionals
Yeah.
over the next 3 to 5 years. That's for damn sure. And then let's see, there was one other thing that I also wanted to add to that, and a lot of it too has to do with um, a lot of EAs still don't really know their company's top products, which is just crazy to me with those products and really understanding what your company's top products are. It's so important that you are part of that conversation, that you understand what where they all sort of fit within the market. Because again, one of the things, and I'll bring this up as the last thing we talk about is, with regard to that EA exec relationship, I still think, there are a lot of sort of assumptions being made on both sides with
Hmm.
regard to, executives not feeling like their executive assistants are really in it to win it, or are, let's be honest, lazy and not learning the
Hmm.
products, not learning the 6-7 people that they talk to every single week, and not even understanding, knowing their last names, or understanding what company they're from, or what those relationships were, if they went to school together, all of that stuff. But on the executive assistant side, with regard to their executives, they feel like, hey, I'm not really being included in those conversations. Therefore, I guess they don't want me involved. I'm not really being included in certain meetings. So I guess they don't want me involved. You know what I mean? Yet you're still being held responsible for knowing a lot of stuff that are in those meetings, that are in those conversations, that are in those sort of relationships between companies and all that. So, I feel there's two sort of deficiencies there. For
Yes.
executives, it's really not understanding that executive assistants are quite capable. They are not only quite, well networked, and can leverage all kinds of stuff that executives don't even see. So they really are a resource that is mostly untapped with regard to information and access, to be honest with you. But on the executive assistant side, there's again, the major deficiency is realizing that executives actually want that. They want that true right hand. They want that partner, that business partner, that strategic partner. But they're not going to force feed you information about a company
They don't
or
have
a department or
time.
anything. They just don't, especially now. Like, I really need executive assistants to understand this. And you can speak to this, I'm sure. You know, right now, especially, you need to be living on all things that your company provides. Like, any information, any trainings, et cetera, that your company provides, you need to be taking it, even if it's not your responsibility. Because again, there's going to be a whole lot of hat wearing for the next, I think, 3 years. Yeah, I said it. You know,
Mhm.
and I think that's one of those things where it's time to get out of comfort land. It's time to get out of excuses. You should be fresh out of excuses, because excuses will get you cut. So I'm curious, with regard to you, in your relationships that you've forged along the way. I mean, do you agree? I mean, is this something that we actually
Absolutely.
need to step into a new light instead of just waiting around, waiting to be, kind of spoon fed stuff?
You know that there are, I just had a conversation not long ago with someone who told me that they were waiting to see what, they wanted to grow. So they went and they asked their executive, how can I grow? Those days are gone, people. If that's your style, you missed out on it back in 2003.
Hmm.
So what you need to do is figure out how you want to grow, come up with a plan, and educate yourself on it. If I hear the name of a company more than twice,
Ding.
Google is free, people. Google is free. Okay, wait, what is this? Wait, no, it can't be that one because that
Mhm.
one's over in that industry. Maybe it's
Right.
this one. Okay, what do they do? What are they doing? How would they fit in here? No one's telling me this. I
Mhm.
went and I learned on my own. And you have to be able to do that with everything. And more importantly, know your company. Like, let's start with even the more basics.
That's
How
the
many
basic.
executive assistants actually know what their company does?
In exacting detail.
Like, just do you know what your company does? Do you know how they make money? And by the way, all that information is free on your website, and it's free if you're a public company. It's in all your filings.
Exactly. And do you even know
And
where to find your filings? Like,
yes,
you know,
right?
you'd be shocked.
So let's definitely let's look at that. Yes, because I have rarely met an executive who I've gone to saying, I'd like to learn more of this, that has said, no, that's not a good idea.
Exactly.
I've never heard that. Hey, you know what? I heard that, XYZ. I think I want to go learn more about this process. Would you be okay with that? I've never heard the word no. What, you want to learn? Sure, that's a great idea. What do you need from me? How can I help? What do you need? What do you want me to sign? Do I need to approve something? What do you want? And that's not just here. That's every company I've ever worked at. So I was thinking, since you're like getting more into this XYZ, do you think it would be a good idea for me to take some classes to learn how to do? Yes, yes. Go sign up, go find out, go figure it out. That's actually, by the way, that's actually how we started the network at my past company.
Love it.
We thought it was a good idea. There was no training for the assistants. There was no development. Hey, you know what? We should come up with some development for the assistants, and boom, a professional network was born.
Yep.
And when we went to the head of HR and said, we'd like some money for development, he said, great. What do you want? How do you have it? We were caught that time. We were caught with our pants down. That was stupid. Learned a mistake, never did it again.
Exactly.
Showed up with a plan every single time after that,
Exactly.
right? So come up with your own plan. Where do you want to grow? How do you want to grow? And go do it.
And I call that DYDS, do it your damn self. Because again, I'm a big believer that I don't wait for anything. I've never waited for anything, because anytime I've waited, I've been disappointed. And yeah, that's my
Yes.
father issues. Oh well, but it actually shaped my professional career. I don't wait. My thing is, if it's something that I need to know, if it will actually take me further, not just in my knowledge, but then allow me into conversations, allow me into the room, so to speak, which is
Mhm.
something we all seem to be fighting for, then I'm doing it. Period. End of story. If I have to come out of pocket to do it, then yeah, I'm gonna hit you up for reimbursement, because if it benefits you, then you need to pay me back. Yeah. But even if it doesn't, that's fine. And if I have to pay for it, numerous times over my life cycle, then all I'm gonna do is continue bossing up my knowledge. And then when I'm sick of you, I'm out. You know what? And I'll go take all of the knowledge that I got, you know, and give that to a company that really will treasure it and allow me to grow even further. So I'm going to actually split this into two because I am never done speaking with you, young lady. Just because you are just so freaking wise and you've been at this, in such a high level. And I want to dive more into in the next one, talking about, the sort of mental health issue, because I
Yes.
think we're all kind of going through it. Like I just went through like 3 straight days of like WTF, like it just hit me like a brick. And I know you went through some like
Yes.
a few things as well. And I think it's kind of important that we talk honestly and openly about it, because I think a lot of times especially now, we don't really have that avenue. So I'm happy to do that via diatribe. So if you will allow me to bring you back and do a second part of this, I would absolutely love that, because I think it's
Absolutely.
something we definitely should address, in a much more honest way. So, but in the
Yeah, I would
meantime,
love it.
yeah,
Yes.
fantastic. Well, thank you, Diana, for putting up with me and my crazy mouth today. And thank you all for watching just this part one of my diatribe with Diana Faz. We'll hit it again, and I really want to kind of dive into something really relevant for right now and something that I think we can all benefit from. And Diana has some great ideas around this. She and I have actually been talking, because we're both on Tribe, which you should be as well. But we've both been talking about this as something that's super duper important. And I want to give it the time it deserves, which is probably going to be that entire session, to be honest with you. So thank you, Diana, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you,
And
Phoenix.
we will be back with you again on the next diatribe with Diana Paz. Thank you.
Bye.